is the January 11th, 2022 regular meeting of the Pinehurst Village Council. We have all council members present today, including the village manager. Reading from my left, your right, Councilmember Lydia Bosch, Councilmember Pat Pizzella, Councilmember Jane Hogeman, Councilmember Jeff Morgan, and Jeff Sanborn, our village manager. There are several other members of staff in the hall and several visitors tonight. We thank all of you who are here in present. I will also greet those of you who may be listening to this meeting online. If you have any questions that you'd like to direct to the Village Council tonight, you may do that by sending an email to the address public comments, 2 C's, at vopnc.org. The village clerk will receive those comments. They will not be read tonight, but they will be circulated to the village council and to staff members where appropriate. Having said that, we'll continue on to item number 2 on our agenda for this evening. And you'll note that the agenda for the regular meeting is rather short tonight because we have quite a number of discussions in the work session which you're invited to participate in. Going to reports, however, we'll go to Jeff Sanborn, our village manager. Jeff?
Thank you, John. I have several things I'd like to cover tonight. The first is that, well, notwithstanding some weather stuff that I'm going to talk about in a minute here, we had been thinking that as early as next week we might be able to start our repaving efforts for this year. And so you might see that work start next week, as early as next week. And the first place we'll be starting is down the street here on Magnolia, where we're doing the streetscape project. So that will complete the streetscape project there as well. And then we'll move on to other parts of the community. The second is that we have some renovation work underway here within the village hall. We have a portion of that wing that sits right back up to the rear of Assembly Hall here that was never finished out when this building was originally built, just due to the capacity needs of the staff at that time. But we are at a point now where we do need that space, and so we've started the work to complete that section of village hall. I think we started last week. We expect the work to continue probably 5 or 6 more weeks, maybe slightly longer if we have any interruptions or delays that we can't forecast. And I just want to make folks aware of that. That's why that dumpster is sitting across the street right now to support that work. And I apologize. I'll apologize in advance if groups have this room scheduled or otherwise during the day where they might be impacted by that construction noise. But we do need to get that done. The third thing I'd like to comment is COVID. We've been at this for quite some time, but I can tell you that by a fairly substantial margin, the impact we're seeing on our staff currently is more substantial than we have seen throughout any of the time that we've been dealing with this COVID situation. Of note, we have 11 employees that are out today. 7 of them have tested positive and 4 have taken tests and are awaiting results. 10 of those 11 are in one department, our public services department. And a lot of that is focused in our solid waste crew. And they're doing some monumental work in cross-leveling people that have the ability to drive our solid waste trucks, but it's not their primary duty assignment this week to try to get through it. We think we're going to be able to get through this week's schedule using those additional folks to get the work done. But again, from the standpoint of apologizing in advance, almost without fail, when we sit, butts in those seats that aren't really familiar with all the intricacies and strange things about different routes, we're going to miss something. We're going to do something. Something's not going to be done exactly right. So I know our crews are going to do the very best they can to provide the best services that they possibly can this week. But we may have some hiccups along the way. And to the extent that we've got to go back and make things right, we'll get that done. And this kind of rolls into my fourth point, which is weather this weekend. Right now, it looks like we're going to get most, if not all, of those folks back at the end of this week. And that would be a very good outcome, because we've been monitoring, with the help of the National Weather Service, this potential storm that's coming in this weekend for a few days now. Though it hasn't been reflected in anything we've gotten in terms of updates from the National Weather Service yet, some of the more publicly accessible weather forecasting websites, if you will, out there made a pretty substantial turn toward the worst in their forecasting for this weekend, this afternoon. Potential for some pretty significant snowfall accumulation on Saturday and primarily on Sunday. And so if that does come to pass, we'll do our best to get through it. I'm hoping we'll get all these folks back from this COVID impact, because they will be vitally important to dealing with all the snow on the streets. But we'll continue to monitor that situation and try to keep the community updated on what's going on as we move forward. That completes my report.
Jeff, thank you very much. Important information. Jeff and I discussed very briefly yesterday the COVID situation, and his report has brought you up to date on the village's status at this time. And I'm going to make a report generally to the public as well as to the council on comments I've received today from First Health at my request, so I would have the opportunity to express their situation, and you'd have the opportunity to understand that. What I'm going to read to you from First Health is, of course, available on their website, and I would urge you to continue to follow that information. But as we had done several months ago, many months ago, I tried to make a report to these regular meetings from First Health almost every time during the COVID period, which of course we're still in, and we'll continue to do that. And Jeff and I discussed yesterday, and the council will have to be considering over the next week whether we need to return to meeting virtually. And if we do that, the public will obviously be well notified, and you'll be able to participate by Zoom yourself. We have not made that decision yet, but we will consider that if we think that's in the best interest of our council members, our staff, and all of you. But nevertheless, here are the comments directly from First Health as of noon today. The dedicated staff at First Health are continuing to fight against COVID-19. And with the newly highly infectious Omicron variant, we are seeing record numbers of COVID-positive patients at all locations. The current positivity rate for testing is 47%. Prior to the Omicron surge, the positivity rate was less than 10%. The current census at Moore Regional Hospital is 367 patients. 77 of those patients are COVID-positive isolation. Current number of COVID-positive hospitalized patients across the health system is 93. First Health is offering COVID testing at the following locations in Moore County: First Health primary care clinics, convenient care clinics, and drive-through testing at the new Avamore Drive Cancer Center parking lot, which you all may understand has recently opened. The drive-through clinic at the Avamore Drive parking lot is seeing close to 500 patients per day. Prior to opening the drive-through clinics, the convenient care clinics at Moore County were seeing 2.5 times their normal volume. Since opening the drive-through, the volumes have begun to normalize. And I'm not aware, nor do they comment about any delays. They're just seeing a great number of patients there. Labs are processing nearly 1,200 COVID tests per day. The turnaround time for test results is 24 to 72 hours. Based on bed availability, some elective surgeries that require hospitalization may be delayed. And personal protective equipment, PPE supplies, are strong. Masks, gloves, gowns are in good supply at First Health. First Health officials encourage the public to contact their primary care provider or utilize the drive-through clinic for COVID testing. Please do not go to the emergency department if you only need a COVID test. We encourage people to get vaccinated and receive the booster. Vaccine and booster doses are readily available. Vaccinated people are less likely to require hospitalization or die from COVID-19. Everyone ages 5 and older can get vaccinated. And finally, they recommend continuation of the 3 W's, which we learned a lot about, and I see many of you are practicing today. Wear a mask, wait 6 feet apart, and wash your hands frequently. So that's the report from First Health, which echoes very much across our community what we're realizing here with the village staff as well. Having done that, I'll move on into a second report I have with respect to a meeting yesterday of the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. Darren Burke, our Director of Planning, addressed that committee yesterday. Some of you here in the audience today are participants in that. I'm glad you're here. Darren made comments about the new buffer ordinance, the new automated permitting process that we have, right-of-way considerations and other activities. And I must say, Darren, we appreciate your participation yesterday, which was well received by the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. Finally, I will go to a report from the discussions, formal and informal, with the resort. I don't think I need to remind anybody, but I'll just take the opportunity that, as you can see in the press of late last week, there will be another back-to-back U.S. Men's, U.S. Women's Open here scheduled in 2029. Another signal that the USGA presence here and their favoritism to Pinehurst as a place to play golf and host tournaments is well respected. With that, I'll turn to other comments and reports from members of the Village Council, and I know that having just commented on the back-to-back opens, and that brings us to the thought of Mr. Donald Ross, our famous golf architect. Lydia has an interesting update on that. Lydia?
Thank you, John. First, I'd want to just say that I went to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting yesterday, and Jeff Sanborn, this may be for you. This was their regular meeting, and they are keenly interested in the resident survey that's out there to residents impacted by the sidewalks, and it's their understanding those results will be back on January 31st. And once and it's their understanding that they come to you, and once you have some idea of when those are going to be finalized, they want to schedule a special meeting. So I just want to let you know they want a special meeting as soon as those results come in and analyzed. So, and by the way, I love snow, so thanks for that report. I didn't know about that. Now, this is pretty...
Not like this much snow.
I'm sorry, what?
You may not like this much snow.
How much are they saying?
I saw one forecast this afternoon. It said about 11 inches.
My dogs will love it. Donald Ross, this is a very cool thing that's happened. This, believe it or not, is a statue that was downtown. And a Pinehurst resident noticed just some nicks in his finish, and so she offered to fix them. And then when she took the statue in, and it's Miriam Chu on the right, there's Donald Ross on the left, Miriam Chu on the right, she realized just how this statue had become so degraded since it was out there. And by the way, this was the prototype made out of fiberglass for the real statue that's behind at the resort. So she took it in and did a miracle makeover of the statue, and she's put layers and layers of products that will guarantee that this statue can sit outside for another 30 years. But she even made his new glasses. The other ones had become detached on the side. So she made new glasses, and I heard from Jeff Batten and from Miriam today that the Miracle Makeover Donald Ross statue is now downtown. So I hope you'll go look at it. And she's recommending that, this is where the Christmas tree goes in every December, so she's recommending when Donald Ross is taken up that he go to the doctor for a physical. And anything that needs to be done, fix it then, rather than allow it to go for like another 20 or 30 years. So anyway, I'm just thrilled. Miriam's thrilled with how it turned out. I'm thrilled, so go take a look at it. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Patrick, any reports today?
Just two items. One is less of a report and more of a comment that in the recent issue or so of the pilot, there was a story entitled Pick of the Litter. And it talked about volunteers from Pinehurst No. 6 Community Association that collected 72 bags of litter and trash along US 15501. And I was pleasantly surprised and impressed, and I want the folks in number 6 and anyone else in any other of our communities to know that as a member of the council, I would like to participate in any of these collection efforts as scheduling permitting, but I will not be participating in this week's 11-inch snowstorm. Anyway, thank you to the residents helping make Pinehurst stay Pinehurst with that. Somewhat related to that, I can't help but notice on the screens we are watching at the very bottom, there's an indication of the temperature, and it says 74 degrees and sunny. And I don't know if where that is at this moment, but it is looking at me right in the face, and I point that out. Lastly, I did yesterday attend the Neighborhood Advisory Council meetings and listened and learned a lot. And I just wanted to pass on to my fellow council members and the public at large. One particular person who I'd never met before impressed me. I believe her name was Beverly Reynolds, in the Woodlands End area. And she revealed that she took it upon herself to set up an Excel spreadsheet so that she knew precisely how many STRs were in her neighborhood. She had it down to the home. She identified 18. And one, I was impressed with her diligence, but two, was also an indication to me that this issue is so important to our residents that on their own, they are taking the time and effort to gather data and facts. I appreciate what Beverly did, and I look forward to the council taking up this issue in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Jane?
No, I have nothing.
Jeff?
You've already given the COVID update from the hospital, but that'll be
Another
all.
doctor right here. Yeah, go ahead.
I've got nothing else, thank you.
Nothing today? All right, thank you very much. Moving on then from reports, I noticed that the clerk was good enough to pick up our sign-in sheet tonight for those of you who wish to speak at the comment period of the regular meeting. There were a couple names on there. I think there are others here who may wish to speak. If you do, the sign-up list is back on the table there now. And if you wish to speak, perhaps be helpful if you just sign your name. We'll pick up that report in a few minutes, and you'll be called on appropriately. The next item of business then is the motion to approve our consent agenda. Are there any reports or questions that council members have within the consent agenda that would require that to be removed or changed at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on into approving of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to so do that?
I move to approve all items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda.
That's a motion by Jane Hogeman. Is there a second?
I second. Oh,
A second by Patrick Pizzella. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. That'll move us through the consent agenda to other business. Are there any other particular items of business not listed here in the regular meeting agenda that council members wish to bring to our attention? Seeing none, we will move then to comments from attendees, which I mentioned just a second ago. And maybe the clerk could bring that list to us, and we'll go straight to those comments. Okay, first this evening is Jeannie Casanella, and you all can speak from the microphone in the small table that's there. That mic should be, yes. Mm-hmm. And please identify yourself by name and address, and use your 3 minutes wisely. Thank you.
First, I'd like to thank all of the council people for taking up the short-term rental issue. And thanks to councilman today for reporting on what happened with the advisory committee yesterday. I happened to be in attendance, and 18 short-term rentals in the Woodlands is only a small figure of what's happening in Moore County. You are facing an enormous task And I'm grateful that, and so is the task force. 2 of us are here and 2 of us are not here today. But we're very grateful that you've decided to take it up. But there's a problem. A year and a half ago, there was a major issue within the village. And it was, I think, kind of dropped. Had perhaps that been worked on back then, maybe we wouldn't be so far behind, but forgive me for reminding you that we had a major issue, and it's growing every day. And with us complementing the resorts for all of the people that they're going to be bringing here in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have some serious issues facing us, not just with short-term rentals, but what's happening with the traffic issues here and what's happening with major construction within the village itself. So you've got a big task ahead of you, but I would like to volunteer our task force to work with you. You've all received a letter from Dolores Torres telling you about what is happening with our contacting both of our legislators, both McGinnis and Bowles. Did you all get that copy?
Yes, we all received that.
So we're willing to work with you. Go ahead. Brenda is an incredible woman who can give you great help and great information on what you may need in terms of what other communities are doing, what they've accomplished, and what the United States is facing with short-term rentals. It isn't just here. So we need to work on that. We're willing to help you at any given time and help you with the information that we're gathering every day. I meet people in Food Lion and Harris Teeter, and they come up to me and say, thank you, because we've got 5 or 6 this past Christmas holiday. There was another issue happening, funerals, because people aren't attending funeral homes very often now because of COVID. So they're having events in short-term rentals. We had one in our neighborhood not too long ago. So it's growing. People are finding ways in which to utilize it. Our task force is not interested in taking away the rights of private citizens in their homes. What we're interested in are guidelines and quality guidelines so that if there's a problem, the police department can handle it, and if not, you all will be able to do it in ordinances. And I want to take 1 minute. Thank you to the chief.
Jeannie, we're trying to limit to 3 minutes, as you know, so please.
Thank you to the chief for the fine work that he and his group do. It's amazing. And thank you, Jeff Batten. For 20 years, you've been around, and every time anyone needs help, you're always there.
Yeah. It's Jeannie Casanella, 25 Lake Hills Drive, right? Thank you, Jeannie, and thank you, Ron. Yeah. The next speaker is Deborah Myatt.
Hi, and Happy New Year, everyone. 3 minutes. For those of you who know me, it's almost impossible. I should have signed up 8 times, but I'm here to address the parking issue. It's an ongoing issue in the heart of the village. We all know it. It's been going on I've been here 17 years with my business, La Femme Chateau. It's been going on a lot longer. No easy fix. I don't envy you. That being said, to restrict to 2-hour parking, which has been suggested, I personally am against it because, especially during the day when parking is the issue, groups of women come down to celebrate, to have lunch with each other, and it's sad when they have to cut their day or their event or their shopping down because they have to go move their car. In the past, when the police had marked tires, it was a joke because people would roll back 6 inches, move forward 6 inches, or erase it altogether. I also don't think it's this is an adult word, villagey, that if you're coming to the village and you feel you're under pressure, do your business and leave. So I personally am opposed to it. Yes, we have abuses. As far as parking, I don't like it when both the pilot or the council says it's because of merchants. I'm a merchant. I've never parked in front of my own store or anyone else's, and I won't. Are there a few very special people that continue to do it? Yes, but some of them are in the offices above, banks, and other places. I do wish that the police wouldn't ticket or harass people, but we have a loading and unloading zone that very few truckers use. Instead, they block traffic on Chinquapin. It makes it difficult to get around it. They either block people from getting into a parking spot or leaving their parking spot. I do wish that the police would drive by and maybe gently suggest to these people, are you aware we have a designated loading and unloading zone for your convenience, which sounds like they're being helpful, not harassing. The signs that I don't really want to see a village filled with signs and do and don'ts. I don't think it's user friendly. I don't think it's welcoming. I will say a couple of things, and my time's running out and I'm getting really nervous. I don't think that yellow, orange cones and other things. I was very sympathetic towards all the restaurants and what they've been through for the last 2 years. However, I think now, especially with the spotlight on Pinehurst more than ever, with the USGA and all the events that will be taking place here, I think the village, it's more important to be visual. And when you're walking from the hotel for the first visit ever here, or you live here and you want to share it with your friends, to go to a village with fluorescent cones and tables and street signs and everything, it's not welcoming in my humble opinion. Even the signs that say 2-hour retail parking, quite honestly, from my perspective, have not been helpful. People don't follow it. I see people that work in offices that are parked in front of my business all day long, all day. So in theory, I applaud the effort, but in reality, it hasn't been working. So I'm just asking you to keep the village a village and charming and welcoming, and the fewer signs, the better. I will end with this. If you want to help, I think the best thing that could happen is if you approached the owners of each business, office, bank, and ask them if they would make terms of employment that their employees do not park anywhere in front of anyone's business. Right now, it's sort of hit or miss. The pilot will occasionally say, it's us who's parking there. But I think if it was part of the terms of employment, and if the restaurants especially, we have new restaurants coming in, if they were to explain to their food servers and the people who get tips that if there isn't parking, there aren't customers, and if there aren't customers, there's not money and or tips. So I think it needs to be sort of spoon-fed, and I think some people, they need, like a kid, a reason not to do something, not just because I said so. Thank you.
Thank you. John Webster.
John Webster, 140 West Mackenzie. I wanted to talk about parking.
Mr. Webster, could you stand a little closer to that microphone or draw it just near?
Can you hear me
Turn
now?
it up. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think this parking issue, to the extent that it is a problem, is restricted really to large events in the town and specific, very small specific areas and specific times. Now, to the extent that we feel that we have to do something about it, I don't think it's right that it should fall upon all taxpayers to pay for this. Because one of the solutions that's being talked about is that we build a large deck for this to be paid by the taxpayers. And my feeling is this is like anything else. It's a land use and therefore has a cost, if nothing else, an opportunity cost. And if we feel this is a problem and there's a scarcity issue, it's a pricing problem. And if there's a pricing problem, then it's up to the users, i.e. the parkers, to pay for this. And I realize that the solutions to this can be costly, but in the staff report on this subject, I see nothing on the cost of building a parking facility and how much it would cost to keep it and maintain it and run it. So we have to compare apples with apples here. So if it's going to cost us something to enforce some sort of parking solution, well, we've got to compare it to what it's going to be to actually have a parking facility, which I'm not sure is going to resolve the problem anyway. Most people are going to want to park just in front of the store or the restaurant or whatever. So my point is exactly that. To the extent that we have to resolve it, and I think it's a limited issue still, but will become a larger one, then we have to look for the causes. One of them is the large events that we like to host in town. And the other one is that it's free. And to the extent that it's free, everybody's going to use it. So we have to introduce some sort of scarcity. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Nash.
Ash, I own the Duneberry at 120 Market Square downtown.
Mr. Nash, would you mind turning the microphone up a little bit towards you, since you're taller than the last person?
All right.
That'll help pick that up, I think, very much. Thank you. Go ahead.
Is that good?
Not quite yet. Maybe we could raise that up a little bit
Point it toward me a little bit.
on the standard.
I don't want to break it.
Help is on the way. Thank you.
I don't want to break it. Good. All right. Is that better?
A little bit better. Stand as close as you can. Thank you very much. Go right ahead.
Top of it then.
Thank
All
you.
right. I did read Jeff Batten's evaluation of the parking, and I appreciate all the hard work that he did on it, all of his graphs and charts. The information was good. I must say that I was disappointed in the conclusion that he drew, that he's recommending of status quo and essentially don't do anything, at least now. I did appreciate, though, that he left room for council to make their own decision, and he gave a 5-bullet point plan or recommendation if council should so choose. And I agree with every single one of his 5 bullet points, and I would just encourage council to go that direction because the merchants downtown, this has been an issue for, from what I understand, decades. And I think there needs to be some kind of forward movement on this versus just continued in the status quo. One further comment on his Exhibit 1, the discontinuance or discontinued issuance of overtime parking tickets. I've been in the village now for 1 year. I've not seen one car get any ticket for anything. So I would like to know if there's been any tickets issued for violating a parking violation downtown. I haven't seen it, so I'm not even sure why it's being addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. The last person to sign up is Debbie Layler. You may need to lower the microphone a little bit. Or just turn it down.
Is that
That's
all right?
good.
You got it? Is
Thank
that
you.
good? Okay, sorry, glasses. My name's Debbie Layler, 80 Azalea Road. I do support the enforcement of parking regulations in the village of Pinehurst. I think that retaining the status quo is bad for local business and bad for the entire Old Town area. I'm ambivalent between the two choices that were offered. They each have their pros and cons, as between timed parking restrictions or a paid parking system on Chinkopin and Marketplace. Parking tickets should be used to enforce no parking zones everywhere else in the Old Town area. I think the fine should be raised from $5 to $25. The staff report started with a goal, quote, how to increase downtown parking availability without necessarily increasing parking quantity. The underlying premise is that there are currently enough parking spaces in the downtown area, they're just not being all utilized. And of course there are, as long as people are allowed to park wherever they want, down residential streets, on any and every pine straw surface in the village, of course there's enough parking, and there always will be, until the village council makes a philosophical decision to take back control of the streets of Pinehurst, to impose its vision of the village and its will on the visitors to the downtown area, and to limit parking to designated spots. Were all commercial parking on residentially zoned streets eliminated, the parking situation in the downtown area would be very different than what it is today. Several years ago, the resort made a major decision to rehabilitate the number 2 golf course and return it to its original design. The golf world loved it. This discussion of parking has created an opportunity for the village council to make the same sort of visionary decision, to adopt a plan restricting parking to specified locations, improving signage, directing people to where to go, and most importantly, to rehabilitate its residential streets and pine straw areas that have been denuded and marred by parked cars, to restore them to their original design. The village's laissez-faire, do-nothing approach to parking over the last 13 years has caused a significant deterioration in the appearance and the landscaping of the residential streets surrounding the downtown area. Here's an opportunity to reverse that pattern. Pinehurst is at a tipping point. Any parking plan adopted for the downtown area should be proactive. It should include long-term, larger plan that's going to address all of the village's parking needs, not just the day-to-day parking needs of shoppers and diners and bar attendees, but also special event attendees. And so I think personally it's time for the council to think outside the box. Streets not designed for the large vehicles and the trucks that people are driving these days. They're just too big, the vehicles are too big for the streets. So maybe we should be thinking about changing our traffic patterns. Should some streets be made one way? Certainly would affect parking for special event occasions. You can tell I care a lot about, tell I care a lot about this. The village has done a great job over by Cannon Park. It was proactive in picking out where it wanted people to park. It's clear, sidewalks are clearly delineated. The same thing is just being put into place down by the brewery. The village was very conscientious and did not advance the parking past the commercial district in front of residential homes. This is really an opportunity, and I hope you'll take it. Everything everybody else has said tonight is spot on, and it's just that there's not a sense, I don't have a sense, I don't think anybody in the room does, that this is part of a larger plan that, because you don't share with us where things stand on the parking garage and what all, but I hope you will consider taking this opportunity, because once construction starts on the lodge, sorry, my 3 minutes is up. Once the construction starts on the lodge and at the USGA, and there are going to be a lot of displaced parked cars that are going to be looking for places in the village, whether it's on Village Green East or whether they migrate into the village itself. Beyond that time frame, which is, I believe, when you're thinking about constructing a garage, maybe too late. By then, the USGA will have brought a bunch of people to town. I wish the council and the planning staff could provide some comfort to the citizenry that you guys are on top of this, because it's unclear at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That's the end of the speaker list as I have it. Ms. Myatt, I believe you've already spoken tonight. Did you have something that someone else wanted to add, or what? Is that all right with council? Please.
Thank you. Since I've been here, it was 16 years ago. I was here 1 full year. There was talk at that time of a parking garage. The day that hit the paper, there was a petition out to stop it. People had a visual of a concrete building with soot and fluorescent lights and honking horns in a really grotesque, ugly thing that you expect to see in a huge major city. I am not opposed to what I would call a carriage house that had a facade that fit in with all the buildings. Let's say it was brick and had windows and coach lights, maybe retail at the bottom. But behind all that would be a parking structure that would conceal all these cars and hopefully not fluorescent lights and soot. I think when you talk to the public or they read the words parking garage, they get a visual that isn't necessarily accurate, and that's why they have model homes. People can't visualize what a home would look like. I urge you, if you're moving forward in any direction with a parking structure, to come up with a name that's in keeping with the village of Pinehurst and its history. And parking garage doesn't do it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments, and I'm sure they've been well heard by all of us on the council and the staff. This is a major issue and a major opportunity for the village. As I've said before on other issues, some opportunities come in work clothes. This is one of those. So we'll work through the best we can to make resolution of the parking problems that we face, but the opportunities we have to resolve them as well. With that, at the end of our regular agenda, we'll be moving shortly into a work session where, in fact, some of these issues that you've addressed tonight will be discussed, among others. We'll need to take a short break for technical reasons from the end of the regular meeting to the beginning of the work session, which will start momentarily. But is there a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and move to the work session?
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
That's a motion by Lydia Bosch to adjourn the regular meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jane Hogeman. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The regular meeting is ended. The work session will begin